Well, now that we looked at how we actually diagram the appositive, let's also talk about why we punctuate them or how we punctuate them. So, in this unit, we're only going to learn two comma rules. So, as complex as these sentences are going to get in this unit, I want you to remember there are only two times we're actually going to need a comma. So, the appositive sometimes takes the comma, sometimes doesn't. That's kind of confusing. Look at this one. William Shakespeare's classic tragedy Hamlet has been made into a dreadful Broadway musical. And there's the sentence again. But you'll notice this time I took the commas out. So you'll notice that here's this word tragedy, and then the appositive is the word Hamlet. Hamlet is renaming tragedy. Side note, it's true that Hamlet has been made into a Broadway musical. I don't know if it's sure if it's dreadful or not. I've never seen it, but that's The Lion King. The Lion King is based off of Hamlet by Shakespeare. But the question really I'm asking is, do I want to put commas around Hamlet or not? And so the answer is no. I don't want to put commas around Hamlet. It's a big difference between whether I put commas around Hamlet or not. So let's talk about why. So in grammar, when I put commas around something, that's my way of saying that I don't need it. And so in a sense, I don't need to say the word Hamlet if I choose the first choice. So if I would have gone with this first choice, and bring up my laser pointer here, if I would have gone with this first choice, that would assume that Shakespeare has only one classic tragedy. But he has many tragedies: Romeo and Juliet, Hamlet, Macbeth. There's a lot of them. And so in this case, I want to know which one it is. So this is one of those times where I don't want to put commas in the sentence because I want to make sure I explain which particular tragedy it is. So it really comes down to how important is this appositive to the noun that it's renaming. And that's what it really means, is how important is it to that noun that it renames. So if I said my friend Jason recently adopted a Moroccan monkey through an internet site, and I said it again, this time without the commas, there's a big difference between these two sentences. One sentence means that I have many friends. One of those sentences mean that I have only one friend. In this case, the first sentence means that I have only one friend. By putting commas around Jason, it's my way of saying, hey, you don't really need to say the word Jason. Just say, my friend recently adopted a Moroccan monkey. And you'd know exactly what I mean because I have only one friend. But if you have many friends, you should say my friend Jason without any commas because I have more than one friend. I have my friend Jason. I have my friend Steve. I have my friend Kevin. I have many friends. So for that, well, actually I have three. But in that case, because I have three friends, I don't want to put commas around Jason because I have more than one friend. So this one would be correct. What if I said my best friend Jason? Well, by definition, you should have how many best friends? Collectively, we're all saying the number one. That's the whole definition of being the best. Nothing can be worse than be like saying, hey, you guys are the best, and so is everybody else. But when we say someone is my best friend, you really should have only one best friend. And if you have only one best friend, then I don't have to say my best friend Jason because I don't want to say my best friend Steve. I have only one best friend. So for that reason, I should put commas around Jason because he's my one and only best friend. So once again, I don't really need to say the word Jason because best friend is very specific. And that's how we crack this code on punctuating appositives. Let's do some practice together. So if I said the writer Tim O'Brien has written many novels about his experiences in the Vietnam War, well, the question is, how important is Tim O'Brien to the noun writer? Is writer specific? No, it's pretty general. And there are lots of writers out there. So this is one where I don't want to put a comma in at all because there's more than one writer in the world. So therefore, no commas. If I said our school's overly enthusiastic math teacher, Mr. Heiser, was pumped for Fight Song Friday. Now, in this case, when I say our high school's overly enthusiastic math teacher, I always think of the same exact guy. So for me, I'm putting commas around Mr. Heiser because when they say the overly enthusiastic math teacher, there's only one person I can think of. But maybe you're like, I don't know. Have you ever sat through Mr. Blos's class? Have you ever sat through Mrs. Garrett? She's crazy. And you're like, okay, I guess there may be more than one. So if there's more than one in your mind, you take the commas out. But if there's only one, you can put the commas in. You'll notice that the commas always come in pairs because Mr. Heiser is the appositive. But you're allowed to kind of play some rhetorical fun with this. What I mean by that is, you can actually get rid of the second comma and make the appositive first to say, Our high school's overly enthusiastic math teacher, comma, Mr. Heiser was pumped for Fight Song Friday. So you can actually put the appositive first and then the regular noun second. So just kind of, once again, a little change up. Next one, selfie, an obscure word a few years ago, is now an everyday term. Well, once again, here's this appositive word, or in this case, an obscure word a few years ago, is all renaming selfie. Well, think about the word selfie. That's very specific. It's not like the word the writer. It's very specific. So for that reason, commas make sense because selfie is so specific. It's not like I need extra information to explain which selfie you're talking about. Selfie so specific that anything after that is just superfluous. It's extra. Let's put commas around it. Owen won Melanie's heart by reciting Oranges by the poet Gary Soto. Here's your positive. Gary Soto is renaming poet. This is the opposite. Poet's pretty general. Because poet's pretty general and there's lots of poets out there, we don't want to put commas in this one at all. So once again, it all comes down to is the noun that it's renaming. How specific is that noun? The next one, we, the Diversity Club members, will be sponsoring an international food festival next week. Well, here it is, Diversity Club members is renaming the word we. Well, we's pretty general, like who's we? And so therefore, I want to explain which we you're talking about. So we'd say we without any commas around it at all. Kate Chopin's short story, The Story of an Hour, is far better than her short story, The Kiss. Well, this happens a lot when you're writing about literature, where this title, The Story of an Hour, is renaming short story. Well, a little later, The Kiss is also renaming short story. Imagine if you would have put commas in this sentence. Remember, when you put commas in, it's almost like you're cutting out that information. So I'm going to change over to my pen. This is almost like saying, if I tried putting a comma in here, and a comma here, and a comma here, it's almost like saying, hey, by putting commas in, you don't need this information. So it's almost like saying, I don't need to say this. And I don't need to say this. So you're left with a sentence which says, Kate Chopin's short story is far better than her short story. That's the dumbest thing in the world. So you're like, wait a minute. No, short story is pretty general. And in fact, she's written more than one short story, which is a reason why if she has more than one short story, just like Shakespeare had more than one tragedy, it's a reason why we shouldn't put commas in this one at all. So in this fact, no commas on this one. Oh, that's the end. All right. No, I don't want to keep these annotations. All right. Your goal now is to practice this on your worksheet.